Hello there, math friends. Today we are taking a look at the beginning of topic 4, where we're going to be learning about percents and all things percents. It's going to be exciting. So I want you to, first of all, go to the first blank space in your math notebook where you've got several pages, because this is where we will start your topic 4 section in your math notebook. And you're going to want to draw 3-column notes in your math notebook so that you can begin to copy down the vocabulary and everything that we're going to be talking about in today's video. So take the time to draw your 3 columns. If you need to, you can turn your math notebook to the side, and so you have more room to write if that's something that you want to do. But we're going to get started. The first word we're looking at, our first vocabulary word, is percent. And the definition of percent is a ratio that compares a number to 100. And we always use the percent symbol when we talk about percents. For example, we might be talking about, perhaps you were talking about 38%. Well, 38% looks like that. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means that is 38 out of 100. And you could also write it as an actual ratio of 38 over 100. The 38 is the part that you were talking about, and the 100 is the whole. The 100% is always the whole amount. And I wrote 100. Of course I did. I meant to write whole. There we go. 38 over 100, that's the part to the whole. That is percent. All right, the next vocabulary word that we're going to talk about is interest. And interest is a percentage paid on money borrowed. So if you borrow money from a bank or your teacher or your parents or your brother or your sister, you might be charged interest. And the interest is always based on a percentage. And so here's a situation. Perhaps you borrowed $10 from your brother or sister at 12% interest. So how would you figure out how much money you would end up owing them after you pay them back? Well, you would start with your $10, and you're going to multiply that by 12%. And 12%, that would be 12 out of 100. And how much will that be? Well, remember, you have to put that 1 under there so we can multiply the fractions. All right. And 10 times 12 is 120. 1 times 100 is 100. And 120 divided by 100 is 1.2, or $1.20. So the amount of interest that you would pay would be $1.20. And then, of course, you would have to add that to the $10 that you borrowed, and you would end up paying your brother or sister back $11.20 if they are charging you interest. How great is that? So that moves us on to discount. What is a discount? And a discount is a deduction from the list price of an item. And the list price, that's like the original price, the price that they are trying to sell it for originally. And it is often based on a percentage of the list price. Sometimes discounts was like, oh, they're taking $5 off. But oftentimes we're taking 30% off the price or 50% off. And so if that's the case, that they're taking 50% off, well, let's say you're taking 50% off. Let's say that an item costs $30. So 50% off $30. So here's how this works. Remember, percent is always a part compared to the whole. And if it's 50%, that's 50 out of 100. And the whole amount of the original list price, let's say in this case, remember, is $30. And so we have to figure out how do we get from 100 to 30. Well, we would have to multiply by 30 over 100. And we would do the same thing up top. We would multiply by 30 over 100. 50 times 30 over 100. Well, 50 over 1 times 30 over 100. That's 1,500 over 100. And when we divide, that works out to be 15. So the amount of the discount is $15. And remember, that's $15 off. That is the amount that's being taken off the price. $15 off. That's the discount. Okay? And the other side of the discount is the markup. Markup. That's quite the thing. Now, a markup is the opposite of a discount. It is a percentage increase in the price of an item in order to make a profit. So stores buy items at wholesale price, and then they mark them up by a certain percentage so that when they sell them, they're making money. So let's say, for example, that a store has a policy of a 20% markup on every item that they sell. Okay, so let's say there's a 20% markup on something that costs $30. All right, well, we know 20% is 20 out of 100. So, and $30 is right here. So that's the whole amount, right? And so then we go, how do I get from, what do I multiply 100 by to get to 30? Well, I would multiply by 30 over 100. And I would also multiply up here by that same amount, 30 over 100. So then we go over here, 20 times 30 out of 100. Put a 1 under there, we multiply straight across. 20 times 30 is 600. 1 times 100 is 100, and 600 divided by 100 is 6. So the markup would be $6. So how much would they sell that item for? Well, we'd have to add the $30 to the $60, to the $6, sorry, and that would be $36. So they would sell that item for $36 total with the $6 markup. Awesome. All right, our next item is percent error. And percent error is the difference between the estimated value and the actual value of something. So let's say that you thought, well, you know, I'll bet that item weighs 5 pounds, but the actual weight of the item is 7.5 pounds. The percent error is the percentage difference between those two amounts. And the way you figure that out is this. So if you thought about this, the amount of the error in what I just mentioned was, the actual amount was 7.5 pounds. The amount that I guessed was 5 pounds. And the actual amount is 7.5. So the percent error would be 7.5 minus 5 is 2.5 out of 7.5, and 2.5 divided by 7.5 is 0.33 repeating. Okay, and I multiply that times 100, and that would be about 33%. So I was about 33% off. That was the percent error. Okay. Enough about percent error. Let's move on to commissions, fees, and tips. So, starting off, a commission. So a commission is money that's paid to a sales employee based on a percentage of total sales. So let's say somebody works in a furniture store or a used car lot or a new car lot. Those people get paid a percentage based on the amount of stuff that they sell and the value of the items that they sell. So let's take a look at a situation over here. Let's say that you work someplace and you sold $200 worth of stuff and you earn a 10% commission. All right, well, we know that 10% is 10 out of 100, and you sold $200 worth of stuff. So how do you get from 100 to 200? You multiply by 2. So you do the same thing up here. I multiply by 2. 10 times 2 is 20. So if you earn a 10% commission and you sold $200 worth of stuff, then you would earn a $20 commission. How great is that? Now, that takes us on to fees. Now, fees are payments that are made to a person or an organization in exchange for services or items that you use. Sometimes it's a flat fee, like, well, the fee is $10, but it could be based on percentages. So you would pay, like if you're using the concession stand to sell things, you would pay a fee based on a percentage. So let's take a look at a situation where you might be using the concession stand. Let's say that the school charges you 15% of everything that you sell for using the concession stand. And at a basketball game, your organization, your club, sold $300 worth of quesadillas. So the school would charge you a 15% fee. So 15% is 15 out of 100. And we would compare that to the $300 that you sold of quesadillas. Well, how do you get from 100 to 300? You multiply by 3. So 15 times 3 would be 45. So you would pay $45 as a fee for letting the school use the concession stand for your club to sell quesadillas. So you'd have to take that $45 from the $300 that you made and keep the $255 as profit. Okay, well, let's talk about tips. Tips are great. So tips, you'll tip a waiter or a waitress or a server or someone when you go out to eat or someone provides a service, and it's usually based on a percentage. And if you're in a restaurant, it's based on a percentage of the bill. And you can see that we have a bill here of $56. Now, you always want to make sure that you're only paying your tip based on the subtotal of the bill, not after tax. You should never pay a tip with the tax included. Never pay on the tax. Don't pay your tips on the tax. Pay it on the subtotal only. Okay? So let's take a look at a situation. You'll see here that the original bill is $56. So if you are going to pay a bill or pay a tip on $56, how would that look? So on that bill of $56 for the subtotal, that's before the tax. Let's say that you decided you only want to leave a 10% tip, and that's fine. Remember, percent is out of 100, so 10% is 10 out of 100. The total bill was 56. So how do you get from 100 to 56? Well, you would multiply by 56 hundredths. And you do the same exact thing up top times the 10. 56 hundredths. So 56 hundredths times 10. over 1, remember? So that's 560, 100. 560 divided by 100 is $5.60. Remember to add that 0. If your calculator tells you 5.6, add that 0. So the amount of the tip is $5.60. So then you would add that to the total of your bill. Now remember, if you look over here, the total of your bill was $59.42. So $59.42 plus the $5.60, you're going to pay a total of $65.02. This is your bill, and this was the tip. Tips are important. Okay, let's move on to the next item. I want you to make sure that you write this down in your notes. Oftentimes there's the shortcut for when you're trying to figure out percents. If you take the whole amount and you multiply it by the percentage, you can find the part that you're looking for. Okay? Whole times percent equals part. But the thing you've got to always remember when you do that is that percent needs to be written as a decimal. And we will talk later about how to convert a percent to a decimal. So when you multiply the whole times the percent, you can find the part. Or you could always just leave it as a fraction of, not of, or a fraction. Remember, and that fraction would be something out of 100, so that's what percent is. Okay? And remember, we have percent proportions, and I want you to write this next thing down also. Percent proportions. Remember, the percent is always a percent out of 100. That's the part to the whole, and you can calculate just about anything using this proportion, the percent proportion. 60% is 60 out of 100, and that can be simplified. If you divide by 20 here and 20 there, that's 3/5. But we'll talk more about that later too. I just want to make sure that you have this information copied down in your math notebook moving forward. All right, math people, that's the size of it. Have a great day. Don't forget to be awesome, and make sure that your notes are neat.